Hey guys, I'm Ryan. I'm the factory representative for the Southwest Pittsburgh area of Klingspor Abrasives, and some of you guys asked me to show you how to polish a turbo compressor housing to get it from looking like this to looking like that. And these are the basic products that I'll be using here. I've got a stainless steel wire brush, a 40 grit flap wheel, a coarse non-woven flap wheel, followed by an 80 grit and a 220 grit sanding star, which will be used on the die grinder. And then we have, I have an 80 grit, which isn't here, 120, 180, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, and 1000, followed by a white rouge on a buffing cotton buff wheel, and then just your standard aluminum polish using a microfiber cloth. As you can see, I already started doing the backside of the turbo, and then I'm going to show you guys how to take the turbo from rough casting and dirty to able to see yourself in the reflection of the turbo. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is disassemble your turbo entirely, so you just are working with your aluminum compressor housing. That way you don't damage anything and you can get it good and clean. As always, safety first. Wear some safety glasses. Wear a shirt because you're going to be throwing shards of aluminum that could get stuck in you. If you want to wear gloves, it's probably not a bad idea too. I'm going to take my stainless steel wire brush, and you want to use stainless steel and not carbon steel, because carbon steel brushes will impregnate into the aluminum and you can possibly get rust later on. But I'm going to take my stainless steel brush here, and I'm just going to clean off all the old crap. That way I'm not sanding it off or pushing it around, and I'm starting from a fresher, cleaner surface. Should mean less work later on. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a lot of this grime that's been caked on and cooked on over the years off of the housing. Apologize for my air compressor running. But I've got most of it cleaned off here. But as you can see, there's some casting lines and things in here that we don't really want to have in our polish. So we're going to go ahead and try and grind those out. This burr right here will be perfect for that. It's the right size. It's a little bit more aggressive than I wanted to use, but that just means I'll have to do a little more sanding later on. But that'll be okay. Okay, so I was able to get all those rough casting lines out. There's still a little bit there, but I'll get that in the next step. I got to blend this line in that the carbide burr left, but that's going to be pretty easy to do now that I got the casting lines out. And what I'm going to use to do that is just a 4.5 inch angle grinder with a 40 grit flap disc, sorry. And that'll take all this rough casting line out. And really the trick to this is just to keep the grinder moving so you don't get any flat spots. I just hit that one time real quick here, and you can see the lowest part of the pits in there. And what you need to do is you need to make sure you get all those pits out, because they're just going to stay there in all your final sanding steps. So if you got to get them out early with the 40 grit, and that goes along with what I was saying about having to step your progression up with your abrasives. So start coarse, get everything out, and then work your way up to smooth. You can see that I've got all the rough stuff out now. There's a little bit right there that still needs to come out. Just on this edge though, and actually I can see a little bit still in here. So I may have a little bit more sanding to do, but I might be able to get that out with the brown Scotch-Brite pad. Alright, so I've got most of the rough casting marks out, but as you can see here where I went with the flap wheel, there's a lot of flat spots. Just the nature of the abrasive, that's what happens. So I'm going to follow it up with a non-woven Scotch-Brite, which you can get from Klingspor. This is called an SMT 800, and this one's a coarse. We have a medium and a fine as well. So I'm going to go over that. This is a little bit more flexible, pliable, so it kind of contours it out and gets rid of the highs without taking too much out of the lows. So it gives it a good round polish. And it's the next step in the polish process for me. So you can see it's kind of more leveled out. It's got a lot more uniform finish on it. It's still not completely flat. I can feel with my fingers a little bit of rise and lower, or height and lower in it. But that's okay, we'll take that out later when we hand sand. We just wanted to get the majority of the really deep scratches out. For now, we're done with the 4.5 inch grinder entirely. But now comes everybody's favorite part, hand sanding. We're going to start with 80 grit, and we're going to take it till it's flat. The side that I already did, you can see how smooth that is, and when you run your hand along, you don't feel bumps. You can still kind of feel highs and lows here, and we're going to sand those out. You're going to use more 80 grit than anything else. Probably only about 2 pieces of, I'm using 6-inch discs that are PSA, and I just stuck them back to back. But you can use sheets or hook and loop if you want. You can probably even use it on a sander, but I wouldn't really recommend it. It's a little harder to control than by hand if you're going for a really nice finish. So let's get to it. Again, lows in the dark spots and highs where it's nice and bright. And just keep sanding until you don't see the dark spots anymore, until it's a nice uniform color. And that's how you know you have a nice round, flat radius. Well, I guess flat radius isn't a thing, but you have a nice even surface that doesn't have the highs and the lows and the bumps in it. And this is going to take some elbow grease and some time. Okay, here's some good examples of a cross scratch. I've got the highs and lows out, but there's still a scratch that's in there the other way. You need to get those out too. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. You need to get those out too, or else those will show up later in your polish, your final polish steps. Okay, it's been about an hour and a half of hand sanding, and we've got all the highs and lows out. Feels nice and smooth. I ended up using cartridge rolls on the die grinder to get down in there and kind of level that out. Where I had used the carbide burr before, I took a little too much off and it left a lip. So I used the die grinder with the roll to get that off. You can still see it says hole set, but they're kind of rounded over. I should have just sanded them off, but oh well. So that's the hard part, is just hand sanding it with the 80 grit, getting it flat and getting rid of the highs and lows. The next step is just sanding it with 120, 180, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, and 1000. And I'm going to do 400 and up wet, but the first couple I'm going to do dry. And that's just to get these scratches out that I put in with the 80 grit to get it flat. So I'm going to start doing that with the 120 grit here. $400. I should probably be doing this grit wet, actually, because it's starting to load up. And what that does is it keeps the grit, like you can see it already piling up on there. The wetness just kind of bubbles it out and keeps it from getting stuck in the paper, so you're actually still sanding. Okay, so I'm going to clean it off here real quick. I'm going to wipe it down with a clean, I guess it doesn't have to be completely clean, but a relatively clean microfiber, just to get it dry. And then we're going to start our polishing process. You can blow it off with an air gun too. However you want to do it, it's fine. I'm just going to wipe it off and let it dry, because I got to clean up a little bit here anyways. Alright, so here's where it starts to get fun, and you actually start to see the results. I'm going to wipe this die grinder off real quick. We're going to start using our cotton buff with the white rouge, and it's pretty straightforward. We're going to address this first because I don't know if it's got contaminants in it or not, so you're just going to take a piece of sandpaper, and that'll just take off the old on the outside, and then you're going to load it up with new. Now you got some on the lens. Alright, so we're just going to start going at it here. As you can see, we're getting there. Polish, and then wipe it off with a clean rag, just like you're doing a set of wheels. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you proof that you can polish a turd. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I'll do some more videos on some other stuff here in the near future. Talk about different abrasives, cutting, grinding, die grinder attachments, maintaining your air tools, things like that. As always, Ryan S. Griffith on YouTube and Finding Nismo on Instagram. And thank you to 280ZX guys for asking me to do this video. See you guys later.